Okay, so I'm getting ready to put the top aluminum on, and I'm going to start here at the front. And you see I've got it loosened up here. There's the inside, what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this adhesive sealant here, this Westman adhesive sealant, along the bottom, and just to help stick the aluminum down. I'm going to come up the sides a little bit on either side as well. And then I'll put that aluminum trim strip that I made, and I've got butyl caulk or butyl tape on that trim strip, and so hopefully that will seal it against the aluminum and also seal it against the front of the trailer here. So it's going to be a little bit of a wrestling match, but should be able to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Closer. So this is going to be the interesting part right here, is getting this caulked piece of trim on there. Alright, just finishing up here, and I got a little bit more wobble in the bottom of this trim than I wanted, but I'll come back and pack some of the butyl strip up underneath it, but I think it's going to be okay. I think it'll seal alright. It's just when I was making it, it wants to deform and curve, so got to do a lot of pounding on it in order to make it go into the shape you want. Okay. So I put a little bit of extra on this V here, so it pushes it up into that gap where the aluminum comes down, where the plywood also comes down, meets the trailer. So that should be pretty good and sealed, I think. Let's take a little bit of this butyl strip, stick it up in there. Alright. Now it's time to start doing the side trim, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some straps on, or get the straps ready. Then I will undo the hinge at the back, let this fall out a little bit so I can put sealant up underneath there. So this sealant probably isn't absolutely necessary. Actually, I'm pretty sure it isn't necessary. However, it just gives me one more line of barrier against getting water underneath this thing. Okay, so I had that strap down, and you notice I didn't put the hinge back on. I just put this board back on. The reason is I don't want to really fasten this down yet. I want it to move as much as it needs to move as I put the trim on, just to take up any slack here. So I'm going to get the trim ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the butyl caulk or the butyl tape, and I'm going to actually put the tape on the aluminum first, and then put the trim on. Alright, so you can see what I've done is I've just basically rolled it over the edge here so it's covering up that gap. And then I'll come along with the trim and put the trim on. Okay, I've got the trim on both sides, and sorry I didn't show you more of that, but it was pretty much me just struggling with the trim to get it to lay down on that butyl caulk. So now I'm just putting in the inserts, and I think these are made to start at one end and then push it in. Well, I don't have an end to start on, so I'm having to use my fingers to kind of squeeze it in there. Just a note on using the butyl tape under here. What I found is the butyl tape raises the trim up just a little bit, and so all the holes that you drilled are not exactly in the right place anymore. So I think if you'd used just a like a caulking gun type of caulk, you wouldn't have had that problem. It would squeeze out and squeeze flat, but with butyl tape, it does stand up a little bit. So if you're doing your own teardrop, keep that in mind. I think I don't have any question but what the butyl tape is not going to leak. It's really sticky, sticks to everything. But if I was going to do another teardrop, I might use just a caulk from a caulking tube instead of that. But that's what I've got, and once I've started, I was committed to it. So anyway, you can see it's not as perfect as I would like for it to be, but it's not too bad. I think it's going to look fine, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this insert trim in. So it's a little bit hard on your fingers. And anywhere it stands up because there's a screw, I just kind of push it in with just the back of my ruler here, actually. So I think once that's all done, I think it's going to look fine. But now I have real respect for those people who make these, and the trim and the caulking just comes out perfect. Okay, so here's what it looks like with the insert trim in, and I think it looks okay. And so the next thing to do is start working on the hatch again, and putting the aluminum on the hatch. Got a little bit of trimming to do on the inside part. I'm also putting a handle on it, so we'll get that done, and then also going to put the trim and the aluminum on the doors.